The familiarity trap. You've seen them at the zoo, maybe on a safari, maybe in a nature documentary where they groom each other in golden afternoon light, infants clinging to their mothers' chests, the whole scene framed to feel warm, relatable even. That is the image that has been sold to you. Baboons are not exotic. They are not mysterious. They are familiar enough that most people have already decided they understand them. A big monkey, loud, social, slightly ridiculous looking with that red backside. That familiarity is exactly what makes them dangerous. Baboons are not a background animal. They are not comic relief. They are one of the most psychologically sophisticated, physically formidable, and socially complex predators on the African continent. And they have been living alongside human settlements, learning from them, adapting to them, and occasionally dismantling them for thousands of years. What you think you know about baboons is almost certainly wrong. What you don't know could get you killed. The environment forged them. The savanna does not reward gentleness. Baboons evolved across sub-Saharan Africa and into parts of the Arabian Peninsula. Arid scrublands, rocky outcroppings, open grasslands where shade is scarce, water is fought over, and predator pressure is constant. Leopards, lions, cheetahs, crocodiles at the water's edge. The threat was not occasional, it was structural, built into every waking hour. To survive in that environment, baboons developed something most prey animals never do. They developed the capacity to fight back. Not flee, fight. A troop of baboons has been documented on multiple occasions mobbing and killing leopards, not driving them off, killing them. The resource competition within their own troops is no less brutal. Access to food, to water, to mates, all of it is contested, constantly, through a dominance hierarchy maintained by violence and the credible threat of violence. Young males who want to rise must challenge males who already hold power. The losers are sometimes killed, sometimes permanently maimed, always displaced. This is the environment that forged them over millions of years. Every behavioral tendency they carry, aggression, coalition building, intimidation, calculated escalation, is a solution to a problem that never stopped being lethal. Baboons did not evolve to be peaceful. They evolved to compete, and they became very, very good at it. The body, a physical breakdown. Adult male olive baboons, one of the most widespread species, reach 70 to 85 pounds. That number sounds manageable. It is not. That weight sits on a frame built almost entirely for combat. The ratio of muscle to body mass in adult male baboons exceeds that of most trained human athletes. Their limbs are compact, low to the ground, and designed for torque and grip rather than reach. A baboon's bite force has been measured at approximately 300 pounds per square inch, comparable to a German Shepherd and far in excess of a human's roughly 160 psi. But the bite is not the weapon most people should be thinking about. The canine teeth of an adult male baboon average 2 inches in length. Let that land for a moment. 2 inches. In some individuals, longer. These are not the incidental teeth of an herbivore. They are shaped identically to the functional canines of apex predators, and they are used the same way, to puncture, to tear, and to kill. Baboons have been observed killing sheep, antelope fawns, and small gazelles with a single deliberate bite to the back of the neck. Their grip strength is extraordinary. Their reaction speed exceeds that of humans by a significant margin. And unlike most animals that display aggression as a bluff, baboons follow through. They have been documented fighting to the point of death, their own or their opponents, without retreating. Baboons are not simply stronger than you. They are built for violence in a way you are not. The Anchor Case, a real documented incident. In 2018, in the Cape Peninsula of South Africa, one of the most densely human-populated baboon territories on Earth, a series of escalating encounters culminated in an event that received relatively little international coverage despite its significance. A troop of approximately 40 Chacma baboons, habituated to human presence over years of encroachment into residential areas around Kommetjie and Scarborough, had been moving through neighborhoods with increasing frequency. Cape nature officials and researchers had been tracking the troop, designated the Slangkop group, for years. The troop's dominant male, a large adult identified in field notes, had developed a behavioral pattern that wildlife managers described in their reports as targeted and deliberate. He had learned which homes had unsecured entry points. He had learned which residents were likely to retreat. In July of that year, a woman in her home was confronted by this male and two subordinates in her kitchen after they entered through a door she had left open. She retreated. They did not. The animals ransacked the kitchen methodically, consuming and destroying food stores. When a neighbor attempted to intervene, the dominant male turned, postured, and advanced. The neighbor sustained lacerations to the forearm, requiring hospital treatment. Baboon attacks in the Cape Peninsula are not rare. They are documented, ongoing, and escalating. The injuries from that incident, lacerations, blunt force from physical contact, bites, were consistent with what field researchers had been noting for years. These were not panicked animals striking out in confusion. The movements were sequential. The threat assessment was performed before entry. The retreat of humans was anticipated and factored into the approach. This is the detail that never makes it into the headlines. The baboon did not react to the human. It planned around the human. The targeting was not random. It was methodical. That's what matters. The intelligence, cognitive capabilities. Baboons possess a working memory comparable in several key domains to that of young children. They recognize individual faces, not just of members of their own troop, but of humans they have encountered, sometimes years after the initial contact. Field researchers studying long-term baboon populations have noted that individuals remember specific humans who frightened them, harmed them, or fed them, and modulate their behavior accordingly, sometimes across gaps of several years. Their problem-solving capabilities are documented and consistent. In controlled studies, baboons have demonstrated the ability to complete multi-step tasks requiring sequential logic, opening containers with multiple distinct locking mechanisms, navigating mazes with false paths, and selecting tools for tasks. In the wild, the learning is applied directly to survival, identifying which human-associated structures have accessible food, which vehicles stop and which do not, which time of day patrols are absent. What is more significant than any individual capability is the social transmission of that knowledge. A baboon that learns how to open a specific type of latch on a garbage enclosure does not keep that information to itself. Within days, other members of the troop have observed the technique and replicated it. This is not instinct. This is cultural learning, the deliberate acquisition of skill through observation and practice. The most dangerous species are not always the physically strongest. They are the ones that can adapt, that can plan, and that can teach. Baboons do all three. Their intelligence is not incidental to their threat. It is the core of it. The social structure, organized violence. In 1994, researchers Robert Sapolsky and Lisa Scher published findings from their long-term study of a baboon troop in Kenya's Masai Mara, a study that has since become foundational to our understanding of primate social structure and stress biology. Their work revealed what field observers had long suspected. Baboon social hierarchies are maintained not just through displays of dominance, but through sustained, organized, sometimes lethal aggression. High-ranking males in baboon troops maintain their position through what can only be described as political violence, forming coalitions with allies, targeting rivals with coordinated attacks, and excluding competitors from resources through sustained harassment that continues over days and weeks. This is not random aggression, it has strategic intent. Long-term field studies have documented what researchers now call redirected aggression, a phenomenon where a dominant male who has lost a conflict with a higher-ranked individual will subsequently attack a lower-ranked troop member. The target is chosen deliberately. It is typically a male the attacker has previously threatened, or a female affiliated with a rival. The behavior demonstrates not just recall of past interactions, but calculation about social utility. Baboon troops also engage in what can accurately be termed organized lethal violence with strategic intent. Documented cases of troop-level cooperation in driving rival groups from territories, surrounding and isolating vulnerable individuals, and coordinating attacks that prevent escape. The term warfare is not an exaggeration. The evidence supports. It is the term the research points toward. They hold grudges, they plan, they remember who wronged them, and they wait. The human overlap, where it gets personal. The Cape Peninsula of South Africa holds one of the most intensively studied and most contentious human-baboon interfaces on the planet. Approximately 500 chacma baboons live in a narrow strip between the ocean and the urbanized zone of Cape Town. Their historical range now fragmented by development that has removed the forest corridors they once used to move between seasonal food sources. With nowhere else to go, the troops moved toward the food that remained. Human food, garbage, gardens, kitchens. What followed is still ongoing. Baboon-human conflict in the peninsula results in hundreds of documented incidents per year. Property damage, physical confrontations, injuries. Wildlife managers deploy field rangers to herd troops away from residential areas. Lethal management, the killing of problem individuals, has been practiced and debated for years. In 2011, the dominant male of the Smitswinkle troop, a large adult named Fred, was euthanized after years of escalating aggression toward residents. This is not a story about a dangerous animal invading human space. It is a story about a displaced species making rational decisions under impossible ecological pressure. The baboons are not acting out of malice. They are acting out of the same calculus they have always used. Identify resource, assess threat, acquire. The humans happen to be in the way. The collision was always going to happen. We drew the maps. We built the houses. We left the doors open. The conservation crisis. The chacma baboon is currently listed as least concern by the IUCN, a classification that reflects population size, not ecological stability. Other baboon species face more acute pressures. The Guinea baboon is near threatened, and several isolated populations across West Africa are in steep decline. Habitat fragmentation, hunting for bushmeat, and retaliatory killing by farmers and landowners are the primary drivers of decline. These pressures are converging, and they are producing something that field researchers have begun to document with increasing concern: stress-altered behavior. Baboons under chronic ecological stress, displaced troops, resource-depleted ranges, disrupted hierarchies, display elevated cortisol levels and significantly increased rates of aggression, both toward other baboons and toward humans. A stressed, displaced baboon is more likely to challenge, less likely to retreat, and more likely to escalate an encounter past the point of resolution. Conservation decline is not making baboons safer. It is producing the worst possible version of an already formidable animal, crowded into shrinking corridors, habituated to human proximity, and with nothing left to lose. The closing reframe: the mirror. Here is what we do not say about baboons often enough. They are extraordinary. The capacity for coalition building, for political maneuvering, for long-term memory of social debts and grievances. These are not aberrations. They are the markers of a mind that has been solving complex social problems for millions of years. The violence is real, and it should not be minimized. But it exists within a system, a troop with alliances, with care for injured members, with females who form lifelong friendships, with infants who play. The baboon is not evil. It is what evolution built when it subjected a highly intelligent social primate to relentless environmental pressure and asked, "What survives?" That question should feel familiar, because when you look at the coalition politics, the calculated aggression, the grudges remembered across years, the opportunistic exploitation of every resource in reach, you are not looking at something alien. You are looking at a mirror, slightly older than us, significantly more honest. The baboon did not build weapons or write philosophies to distance itself from what it is. We did, and we still ended up at the same place.